So, the Xbox Games Showcase of 2025 just concluded, marking the end of this weekend of games showcases. In case you don't know, through this past weekend, major players in the gaming space had gaming showcases to showcase upcoming new games that are going to be releasing this year and next year and into beyond. We started with PlayStation with their State of Play, then we went to Jeff Keighley's Games Showcase, and now we finally finished off with Microsoft and Xbox's Games Showcase of 2025. And crazy enough, I think the theme of this year is a little bit of disappointment. There was a lot of big games and a lot of big names that we were hoping to get, starting with PlayStation, going all the way to Xbox, and unfortunately, we missed out on some of those titles and some of those announcements. Now, in this video, I will specifically be only covering the Xbox Game Showcase because I thought it was the best of the three and it had the most to say, and it also had the most notable misses from previous showcases. So today, let's talk about the Xbox Game Showcase of 2025. What are some of the highlights of the showcase, what I'm hoping to play in this upcoming year, and what were some of those key and notable misses from this showcase. Kicking things off, let's start with Outer Worlds 2. Now, this was absolutely the highlight of the games showcase to me. They showcased the most of it. It's also coming out this year in October of 2025. We finally got a release date, so that's honestly awesome to see. And you can just tell that this is a game that is worth playing and that Obsidian really cares about. Now, Avowed had solid media coverage going into it with its release in March of this year, I believe. But this game in particular is having way more coverage, way more news cycles about it, and they're showing way more of the gameplay. And I think that's because of the fact that Obsidian is way more confident in Outer Worlds 2 than they were in Avowed. We've been having gameplay showcases as early as April of this year. I made a video on a 10-minute gameplay segment that IGN dropped, and since then we've gotten more and more information about this game and more details, and they seem incredibly excited about it. And from what I can see, the game does look like a noticeable improvement from the first Outer Worlds, a game that I really loved. And so I'm excited to jump into Outer Worlds 2, upcoming in October 2025. The combat looks really amazing. The worlds look more diverse and dense and brimming with stuff to do. The conversations look great. The progression is something that they've hammered home a lot, and it's something that I can tell has been vastly improved since Outer Worlds 1. They've added new mechanics and new backgrounds, and it's just overall a game that I am incredibly excited for upcoming this year. Moving on though, let's talk about High on Life 2. Now, this is a game that is incredibly wacky, incredibly zany, and is a game that isn't everyone's cup of tea. It was originally made by Justin Roiland, the creator of Rick and Morty, but since then they've moved on from him and they're continuing the High on Life series, which is something that I was not prepared for whatsoever, and it's actually something that I'm quite excited for. I played the original High on Life. It was a game that I wasn't really sure if I was gonna like, and I ended up liking it a fair bit. It came out around COVID time, and it was around the time where I had nothing to play, and so I fired it up. It was a short, like 10-hour game, and honestly, it was fun. The combat was fun, the first-person shooting was fun, and this game just looks like a bigger and better version of that original game. And so it's something that I'm excited to check out when it comes out. It is also coming this year, like Outer Worlds 2, so it's a game that I'm excited to potentially check out later down this year. Now, moving on to one of the main events that I was incredibly excited for. We got new story DLC for Indiana Jones called Indiana Jones and the Order of Giants. Now, I made a video on Indiana Jones and the Great Circle back in December of last year, calling it one of the best games of 2024, and I absolutely stand by that statement. I loved that original Indiana Jones game. I loved what Machine Games did with the first person elements. I loved the different settings we checked out. And most importantly, I loved the story. And it seems like they're going to be continuing that sort of story with the Order of Giants, and I'm just so excited for it. We saw a trailer where they were talking about Rome in Italy, so I'm excited to see that as a setting, and I'm excited to see all the other settings that, you know, they decide to come up with for this specific story. I'm curious to see how long the story is going to be. Indiana Jones took me about, I think, 20 or so hours to complete. If we get a solid 10-hour story or even 15 hours for 20 or 30 bucks, that's more than enough for me. And it's something that I'm going to be excited to jump into no matter what. Now, I want to talk about one of the major announcements that came out of this Xbox Game Showcase, and that is the new Xbox handheld. And I kind of have mixed feelings about it. In some ways, it looks absolutely amazing and something that I will probably be purchasing. But in other ways, I'm also kind of disappointed at the same time. I don't know. So basically, this new Xbox handheld was made in conjunction with the ROG Ally. It has Xbox controls and it has Xbox Game Pass built in with Play Anywhere. And so that is honestly really cool. I like that it keeps the Xbox Game Pass, but you also get Windows as whole, so you can download your Steam games, you can download whatever you want, and also have your other library of games. It also is compatible with GOG, which is very huge. So in certain aspects, in that sense, it's very cool. But at the same time, I can't help but think that this is just kind of Xbox slapping their name on an ROG Ally. The only real difference that I'm seeing is the Xbox controls being built into the ROG Ally instead of their proprietary buttons. And so that's interesting and cool, but at the same time, it's like, why? Like, it doesn't really matter. You could play Xbox Game Pass games on your ROG Ally already, and you had the PC stuff, so you could play Steam and GOG and all that other stuff. So I'm curious to what makes the ROG Ally Xbox Edition so different and so significant to where it's actually worth purchasing over a regular ROG Ally. For me personally, I own a Steam Deck, which I love, but the majority of my library is on Xbox Games Pass, and so it's something that I'm looking to kind of dive into. So it is something that I'll probably be purchasing, especially since I like the Xbox controller and layout over the PS5 controller and layout. But, you know, I'm curious to see on if you already own a Steam Deck and you're happy with it because the majority of your library is there, or if you already own an ROG Ally X, or if you already own the PlayStation handheld that they have, you know, what is compelling you to purchase this one? But that's enough about the handhelds. This next game I want to talk about is something that I am incredibly excited for, and is a game that gives me heavy Obsidian vibes, but it's not made by Obsidian, and that's Clockwork Revolution. We had the biggest trailer of the night from this Clockwork Revolution game, and it looks amazing. I love the vibe of the world. It's kind of like a steampunk clock themed world. The graphics look amazing. The combat looks super fun and interesting. And I love that there's more of an RPG feel to this game. I wasn't sure if they were going to make this an action adventure game or, you know, go the more RPG route. And I'm glad that they went the more RPG route, specifically because that I love that style of game. That's my preferred style of game, and it's definitely something that is very Obsidian coded. We saw lots of humor, we saw a dialogue tree, and we saw gun modification, crafting. The guns in particular to me look insanely fun and insanely cool to use. They're kind of like clock themed, and so the vibe of the worlds and the immersiveness really fits in to every aspect of this game, including the weapons, including the crafting, including the character models and things like that. And the main selling point is that time mechanic where you can change stuff in the past and it affects stuff in the future. You can go into the future, you can go into the past. It's this whole timing mechanic that's built into the game, and I'm curious to see how it works. I want more information on it. It looks super unique and interesting, and something that hasn't really been done before in a game, as to my knowledge. But it's something that, you know, will require a lot of work, and so this game doesn't have a release date yet. I was hoping to see this game in 2026, but they said no release date as of now, and that kind of worries me a little bit because I don't want to see this game in 2027. We got the original announcement of this game last year in 2024, so I was hoping that this year they would give us a 2026 release date. But unfortunately not. We're going to have to wait a little longer, and we're going to have to wait and see for more information. And yeah, aside from Clockwork Revolution that has no release date, I want to talk about two games that have a 2026 release date that really interest me. The first one is Resonance, A Plague Tale Legacy. This is a prequel set 15 years before the Plague Tale games. I don't know much about the Plague Tale games. I've seen them on Game Pass, and I've been wanting to give them a try, but I've never had the opportunity to do so. But considering that this is a prequel where you probably don't have to know the story of the original two games, it's something that I'm definitely willing to jump into. It looks really cool. The vibe looks amazing. I love the medieval setting, and I know that this is a more like stealth action adventure focused series, so I'm excited to see that continue, and I'm excited to see where Resonance: A Plague Tale Legacy goes. It's definitely a game that I will absolutely check out and make a review on in 2026. So yeah, the other game I want to talk about is The Blood of Dawnwalker. Now, this was an incredible looking game that I was not prepared for at all. It's developed by Rebel Wolves, published by Bandai Namco, and it's a new vampire medieval game. It has third-person combat, and I honestly really love the vibe of this game. The world looked incredibly expansive in the game footage shown, and the monsters that you fight look very cool and different. I also love the little story segments that they put into the trailer. It's definitely a story that intrigues me, and so this is another game coming in 2026 that I am quite excited to check out. Now, the last three games I want to talk about before we get into what was missing is Gears of War Reloaded, which is a remaster of the original games. I love the original Gears of War games. I grew up playing them on the Xbox 360, and it's cool to see them kind of be remastered and repackaged and optimized for the Xbox Series X and PC. It's coming to Game Pass as well, and it's definitely something that I will be checking out when it comes out. And the last trailer of the showcase was something that I was not expecting whatsoever, and that was Call of Duty Black Ops 7. Now, when they first showed this trailer, I had no idea what this game could be. I was kind of thinking Infinite Warfare 2 with the like mechs and stuff, but at the same time I was like, this doesn't really give Call of Duty in the way that I would expect Call of Duty to give, and so I wasn't really sure. But then they said David Mason's name, and I just knew that this was a direct sequel to Black Ops 2. That got me excited. I will say that it was a little anticlimactic for the end of the segment. I like the Call of Duty series. I always play the Black Ops games. I grew up on those games. My first game that I ever played was Call of Duty Black Ops on the Xbox 360. And so I'm always willing to try and check out the new Black Ops games, but it just felt a little anticlimactic because we know a Call of Duty comes out every year. The story itself and the trailer that they showed was incredibly interesting. It was kind of spooky. It was a little different than what they do in the past, but at the end of the day, it is still a Call of Duty game, and so it's going to have a Call of Duty-esque campaign, and it's going to have multiplayer and zombies offerings, so you kind of know what you're getting out of it, whether the game and the trailer looks more interesting than usual or not. But yeah, it's definitely a game I'll check out in the later half of 2025. It's a game that I always play. It's a game that I will review. But yeah, it looked interesting. It looked interesting. The last game I want to talk about is Grounded 2. Now, I actually played the original Grounded quite a bit. It was a cool survival game with like a unique element with the fact that you're smaller. And they did a whole developer direct with it because of the fact that Obsidian was the developer direct this year. And it's just a game that's super cool, super fun, and I'm excited to check out when it comes out in July. So this was definitely Obsidian's year with 3 whole releases in 2025. 2025. And if they can hit on all of them, I liked Avowed. I'm sure I'm going to like Grounded 2, and I'm very excited for Outer Worlds 2. If they can hit on all 3 of these releases, that's going to be a damn good year for Obsidian, and I hope it gives them the capital and the money to work with to make even more bigger and more expansive games down the line. But this is an elephant in the room throughout this entire showcase, and that was the lack of certain games that they've shown before. Games like Forza Horizon 6, games like Fable, games like The Elder Scrolls 6, and games like State of Decay 3 were nowhere to be found in this games showcase. That is surprising to me. A lot of these games were introduced and showcased when the original Xbox Series X came out in 2020. We are 5 years into the life cycle of this generation, and if history is anything to go by, that means there's only 2 to 3 years left of this life cycle. The fact that we had an entire game showcase and some of these games just weren't even shown is absolutely insane. The Elder Scrolls 6 in particular is a game that I was at least expecting a teaser for. I mean, it's a game that was teased in 2018. Like, that is insane to me that it's been 7 years and not a single new trailer has dropped or any information at all about the Elder Scrolls 6. You had to assume that as soon as Starfield came out in 2023, that they shifted the majority of their developers to work on the Elder Scrolls 6. In those 2 years, you would think that there would at least be something to showcase by now. And the fact that there isn't is an incredibly big red flag. Speaking of red flags, let's talk about Fable and let's talk about State of Decay 3. Those were launch announcements from the Series X lifecycle, and they are still nowhere to be found. Particularly, State of Decay 3 just hasn't had any information get dropped since that original release, and that's insane to me. There's a decent chance that these games just completely missed this console generation, and to me, announcing a game as a launch in one console generation and have it not be released in that console generation is absolutely insane. Fable, they showed a little bit back last year, but why was it missing this year? I was expecting that they would probably drop a trailer and give a 2026 release date, considering the fact that this game has been worked on by Playground Games for so long. And speaking of Playground Games, there's no Forza Horizon 6 either. Forza Horizon 5 came out in 2021. I understand that probably the majority of their resources are being focused on Fable because that's the game they're working on right now. But I would imagine that in 4 to 5 years, a new Forza Horizon game would come out. Mexico was an amazing setting, but it's time to move on. It's time to create a new world to play in. I don't play a lot of racing games, but Forza Horizon is one of the few series that I will always jump into and finish at least the main story for, because the graphics are so good, the world that they built is so beautiful, and it's so fun to drive fast cars around in these worlds. So the fact that there was no Forza Horizon 6 either was a bit of a disappointment. And then they also mentioned a Hollow Knight Silksong in the ROG Ally Xbox collaboration thing, and then they didn't talk about it after that. They said that it was releasing as a launch title for that Xbox console thing, the handheld, but no information outside of that. I figured that if they were going to name drop that game, that they would at least drop some information on what it is, what it's going to look like, and things like that, but none of that here. So in conclusion, I'm kind of left feeling mixed on this Xbox Games Showcase. I overall really enjoyed some of the titles and some of the announcements they had. It was definitely front loaded. When they first started, they were dropping banger after banger, and I was completely convinced that if this is what's happening in the first 30 minutes, they're probably saving the crazy shit for the last. But it was shorter than I expected. It was only about an hour when leaks and rumors were suggesting an hour and a half. And on top of that, after that first little half, it kind of went downhill from there. I mean, Clockwork Revolution, while amazing and a very cool trailer, is a game that we've seen before. The only two real new games that I was really excited for were Resonance of Plague Tale Legacy and The Blood of Dawnwalker. Outer Worlds 2 we already knew about. High on Life 2 is a cool game that I'm down to check out, but it's not something that's like on my most anticipated list or whatever. And then of course Indiana Jones and the Order of Giants was a DLC for a game that I love, but again it's just a DLC, not a new game. So I'm left kind of conflicted about this Xbox Games Showcase. We saw a lot of cool stuff, but a lot of key and notable games were also missing. But yeah, guys, that's gonna do it for this video. Let me know what you thought of this Xbox Games Showcase, and also let me know what you thought of PlayStation State of Play and Jeff Keighley's Game Showcase. I thought they were both honestly pretty solid. There were some good titles in there, but they were definitely weaker than the Xbox Games Showcase, which is saying something because I thought the Xbox Games Showcase also wasn't super amazing. But there was some cool stuff in there. I thought Pragmata from the State of Play looked really cool. I thought, you know, Ghost of Yotei, they teased it. I'm excited for that game. I'm excited to get a chance to play it and review it. But honestly, other than that, not a whole lot from those two showcases. But yeah, guys, let me know in the comments down below. If you like this type of content, make sure to give it a like and consider subscribing to see more content like this. But yeah, guys, it's CGG. I'm out.